It's not your fault. It's something that you can support him from a distance, or you can support him with him. But if it may be too difficult to support him, like for example, going to some meetings, or whether there's like
there's
I'm sure people
out there. I work with the support groups to help men and women overcome porn and sex addictions.
Right.
And it's really important what you said, knowing that it's nothing to do with you. It's to do with something that he's struggling with on his own. Yes, you can support him with it. And if it's too difficult, because, of course, all the emotions are involved, then let him get support elsewhere. Encourage him to get support elsewhere. But if he doesn't, then that's also not your problem as well. Because, we can't force anyone to go get support. If they are willing to overcome it, then yes, inshallah, you support him with that. But you can't blame yourself, and you can't be comparing yourself to the women, the person who he may be having an affair with, because that's just going to damage you further, and it can leave you in a very, very dark space, like I've seen with so many women myself.
And one thing I would say, especially, and I appreciate there may be obviously non-Muslims listening, or people that do not believe in God or anything, but the importance of faith, I think people should not underestimate that. And even when we look at the support groups, especially whether it's Alcoholics Anonymous, Sex Addicts Anonymous, that basically copied, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the 12 Steps program. So the 12-step program that the Sex Addicts Anonymous use, they base it off the Alcoholics Anonymous program. Yeah. And in that 12 Steps program, it's a self-help program, recovery program to help anyone who's struggling with, sex addiction or alcoholism. Central to that program is the importance of faith. And even when you read it, even from an Islamic perspective, it's very in line with our Quranic teachings in terms of you're relinquishing your power and knowing that you're submitting to a higher power, i.e. God, to try and help you overcome what you're going through. And many people speak about the importance of, like these AA meetings and also the SAA meetings for sex addicts. And there's also another form of sex addicts, which, again, many people don't really talk about, which is love addiction or intimacy addiction that a lot of women suffer from. Love, and I'm using the word love intentionally, not lust, because, again, when we speak about lust, especially coming from a Western perspective, we look at the 7 deadly sins, lust being evil, lust being wrong. But when you speak about love is all good, but love can be a form of addiction, a dangerous addiction. Love isn't always good because you can love something which isn't healthy. Yeah. So with the love addiction, and that falls into one of the different types of sex addiction. So you've got sex addiction, love addiction, and porn addiction. But all of them, they are a type of out of control feeling or behavior, whether it's attached to sex in terms of sexual activities, whether it's attached to love, or whether it's attached to porn. And these are things that people are managing with. But again, when it's coming from the perspective, like we seem to have more empathy or sympathy for someone who's maybe love struck or is going through love, and they could be attached or getting into these unhealthy relationships with different people because they're addicted to these, and again, just say these partners that they're with. But when it comes to sex addicts, there's less appreciation or less empathy for people who are struggling in terms of sex addiction or like porn addiction. I just find it, and that's why I think even for a man, if he's going through that, and I've heard a number of men say they can't tell their wife. I find it more comfortable to maybe speak to like a friend that they trust, and not even a lot of men could even could really open up with their friends in terms of if they're suffering. So, and again, I'm not saying all of this so people think I'm just siding with the man, and it's just to see the humanity in the person that is going through something. Now, in terms of, again, the woman, if she wants to understand where did this come from, again, it can come from, like, how did it develop? That's another topic altogether. But I'm more kind of solution orientated, and sometimes it's not really a case of necessarily understanding like the origins of where did this come from, but knowing first and foremost it's not you. It's nothing really to do with you. It's something that, and again, not all, but a number of men view sex and love and desire differently from how women view it. And I touched on this, in the last webinar with the whole idea of the romanticized unconditional love, where love and desire exist at all times in the same entity. And this is the love that many people, especially in the Western world, were pumped with. So that's why a lot of women, when they hear, this idea, they hear the news of the husband is, cheated on them or he's looking at porn, it's this idea that he doesn't love me anymore.
Yeah. I found that really, really interesting in your last webinar, actually, about how the Western world see it, that is like when you love someone, you lost them, and it's all in that one person, and that you can't find desire elsewhere. And then and that Western ideology that's been put inside us, if you were to see your partner cheating or betraying you, you're like, okay, that's it. It's over. He doesn't have anything for me anymore. There's no love there. There's no desire there anymore. So then they go and they try and make themselves more beautiful and do things to keep him attractive. And he's still cheating. And that's putting her in a really dark place. And I think this is the problem that a lot of women are having. They don't understand that their partner can still love them, and they can still have desires elsewhere, or still be addicted to pornography, or have that love addiction. Yep. So when I mean understanding where it's coming from, not necessarily looking down, to see what, childhood trauma that has led him to, having this addiction, but understanding that it's not you, and understanding that he still loves you, and he can still find desire or love with another person, but that has nothing to do with you as a woman.
Yeah. And I think it's about understanding as adults. I'm not a therapist or anything, so I don't know much about, I understand the number of therapists look at childhood trauma and its impacts and things like that. But I'm just, again, as adults on a practical level, I always ask people, both men and women, to re-examine what they understand love to be, lust to be, desire to be. Because they're not, and even sex as well. Because again, if you're dealing with someone, and again, it's not right or wrong, but has this concept or this ideology that love and lust is like one and the same, as in when you love someone, truly love someone, you desire them, you won't desire anyone else. That might be for you, which is fine. But but is that how your partner views love and desire and lust? The same way when we talk about love languages, the wife might have a specific love language of words of affirmation, and the husband might have a different love language. Mm-hmm. Now, again, and that was the whole point of why Gary Chapman wrote that book, was it's all about how do you communicate love, because we can communicate love differently, and even not necessarily men and women, but even as human beings. But if there's a level of understanding and mutual understanding that, okay, this is what I understand love to be, but my partner understands love to be such and such, then something that you might be doing that for you might not be considered a deal breaker. For him, it is. Like for men,